Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going over the Havoc Demon Hunter in an AOE Mythic Plus build. This build is super fun to play. I enjoy this build because it's actually a pretty simple build. It is not the meta build, and one of the things I enjoy is getting away from meta and kind of playing around with, especially now that we have this new talent system, playing around with the talents and finding something that's fun for me. And this one is going to be a great build for anybody that's starting out with a Demon Hunter for the first time. This is going to be a great build because it gives you an opportunity to learn an easy rotation. It also teaches you how to pay more attention to mechanics and be a more effective teammate for your team in Mythic Plus and still output great damage. I get it. There are metas out there that meta builds for people who want to min-max, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this comparable build that I have is pretty strong compared to those, and I'd wager that it goes pound for pound with them for the most part, and it's a lot of fun to play. So I did a video a month ago during pre-patch showing you what it looked like, minus the last 10 points that you get to apply to your character, and now I have those 10 points included, got some gear on them, and ready to showcase it for you guys and show you what it's going to look like. We're going to go through gear, we'll go through talents, and then we're going to go through rotation, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to show you guys this build, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I will put the import code in the comments and the description so that way you guys can get your hands on it either way, so that way you can try it out for yourself. And I would really love your feedback in the comments down below. If you could just let me know your thoughts on the build, if you import it and try it yourself. I'd really like some feedback on what you guys might think about it, because it's really a ton of fun to play. And also, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I need your guys' help. If you love the content and you want to see more of it, do me a favor, hit the sub button, turn the alerts on so that we can keep pumping out fun tutorials for you. So without any further ado, let's get to it. I'm currently sitting on a 387 iLvL with this character, and I'm not going to be using any trinkets for additional abilities through the rotations to show you guys just what the talents are going to do for you. If you're interested in the talent points in a deeper dive from 1 to 60, you can check out my prior video, which I will link in the description, and I'll also have it tagged to the end of this video for you guys to go check out, so you can get a deeper dive into that. We're just going to be talking about the additional points from 60 to 70, and then talk about how that's changed the rotation compared to prior. So the first one we're going to be talking about is precise sigils. All sigils are now placed at your target's location, and the duration of their effects is increased by 2 seconds. So you're not having to target and drop it, wasting that time to do it, and it gives it 2 extra seconds of its ability, which is really nice when it comes to using, in this case, Sigil of Flame. The next one we're going to talk about is Fellfire Haste. It's a passive. Your Fell Rush increases your movement speed by 10% for 8 seconds. It's just to help you move through those dungeons quicker. It's just a nice quality of life improvement, so I went with that point for that instance. The next one is Infernal Armor. Emulation Aura increases your armor by 20% and causes melee attackers to suffer 839 chaos damage. So it's another great passive. So when you're right in the middle of the thick of a pack of adds, you're getting that additional damage for just being there, not even doing anything. So it's definitely a must to supplement into your build. And moving down to the last point that I could use in this build was Unnatural Malice. It increases the damage over time effect of the hunt by 30%. And the hunt is super important to have. With the hunt, I typically use it in the rotation whenever I'm fighting bosses because of the cooldown on it, but you will be able to use it a couple of times on some ads. So if you're just, if you're looking at like those 2-pack ads, or it's a 3-pack, and you can obviously tell who's the bigger elite out of the group, you would use it on him in between those ads. But I generally try to time it to where I can use the hunt for bosses and any big ads in between. So this one's really nice to add that additional 30%, especially when you stack it with your Metamorphosis. When you stack it with Metamorphosis, giving that additional, it really punches out a buttload to help with that single target, a buttload of damage. So it's super nice. The next thing, we're going to move over and talk about the last few points on Havoc. Starting with the first point was momentum. Fell Rush, the Hunt, and Vengeful Retreat increases your damage done by 8% for 5 seconds. Again, a nice passive buff for you. Know Your Enemy is the next one that we're going to talk about. Gain critical strike damage equal to 80% of your critical strike chance. So again, just those crits are huge, and being able to have that additional 80% of your critical strike chance is phenomenal. The next one we're talking about is Elysian Decree. You place a Kyrian Sigil at the target location, and it activates after 2 seconds. It detonates 35,001 chaos damage and shatter up to 3 lesser soul fragments from your enemies affected by the sigil, and it deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. But this one is phenomenal simply due to the fact that it's going to give you really great AOE damage, and it's going to give you survivability, which is definitely going to help your healer out between your I-Beam and Elysian Decree in those pack pulls and even in boss fights. Being able to regenerate your own health helps them to help focus on the rest of the team so that you can survive through these certain points, these DPS checks and stuff like that, to get through those dungeons and get them timed for your KSM. And the last one we're going to talk about is Essence Break. Slash all enemies in front of you for 27,076 chaos damage and increase the damage of your Chaos Strike and Blade Dance deal to them by 80% for 4 seconds. Deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. This one, again, is phenomenal. It's a great AoE, and with that passive for 4 seconds, having your Chaos Strike or your Blade Dance deal 80% more damage, it's phenomenal. And in fact, you'll see in the rotation that Blade Dance usually follows right behind Chaos Strike for that additional damage increase. So that's going to do it for the points. This is a very simple build, but it does put out a buttload of AoE damage. It's going to help you. It's going to make you look like a sweat without being a sweat. And it's a lot of fun to use. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the rotation, and just break down exactly what it's going to look like, and then I'll demonstrate it. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is rotation. I always open with Emulation Aura. Unless I'm way behind the tank or something, I might use a Fell Rush to catch up, but I always start out with my Emulation Aura, and it engulfs you in flames, instantly causing 3,005 chaos damage to enemies within 8 yards and radiating 13,465 chaos damage over 12 seconds. From this, I am going to Fell Rush out of the group, hitting them with a buffed Fell Rush, because when you use your Emulation Aura, it buffs your Fell Rush, so that gives it increased damage. And then I immediately hit my Fell Blade to bring me right back into the group with my Emulation Aura, so I'm continuing to burn. From that point, I'm going to use I-Beam. I-Beam is going to blast all enemies in front of you, dealing a guaranteed critical strike up to 30,490 damage at over 1.8 seconds. Deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. Right after I finish my I-Beam, I do an Essence Break. Again, slashing all enemies in front of me for 27,076 chaos damage. Now, that's going to give me the 80% buff for 4 seconds on Blade Dance. From that point, I'm using Blade Dance. Now, in this instance, if it's a 3-pack with a bigger, with an isolated, you can tell a bigger elite, I would, while I am doing that, I-Beam with one of my passives, it also puts me in a Metamorphosis for 6 seconds. I will use the Hunt in that moment to get that buff off of that Metamorphosis without having to use my Metamorphosis, and get the additional increased damage on the Hunt. So, depending on how big of a pack pull, and I can demonstrate that as well, that would go into the rotation. But for the most part, from there, I'm dropping Sigil of Flame, if any packs are left, because usually by the time I've done all of that stuff, I may occasionally throw in a Chaos Strike or something like that, or throw glaives. Because you're throwing your glaives, you throw a demonic glaive at a target and it deals 3,873 physical damage, and the glaive can ricochet and hit 2 more additional enemies within 10 yards. So again, a nice little cleave. If there's any packs left up, any enemies left up in that pack, I'll throw down my Sigil of Flame, and then I will throw down Elysian Decree. And by the time I've utilized all of these, I'm coming back into emulation and pretty much being able to recycle this entire rotation. However, you know, usually because you move so quick with pack pulls, by the time I have emulated Aura, Fell Rushed, Fell Bladed back in, I-Beam, Essence Break, Blade Dance, and then from there, you know, a Throw Glaive or a Chaos Strike, the pack's usually dead. So when you're moving into your next group, by the time you get to your next group, your emulation aura is back up. So I would engage that again, Fell Rush in, or Fell Rush through them. Once I do that, I Blade Dance back in, and then I drop Sigil of Flame, and then I drop Elysian Decree. That's just my rotation. So by the time I finish that rotation, and we're going into the next pack, I've got my I-Beam and my Essence Break. I usually rotate in my rotation while these are on CD. That's when I'm using Sigil of Flame and Elysian Decree. Now, I get it. In some situations, you might goof and stand in stupid, or, you know, some kind of AOE effect you might not see on the ground, especially like in Naku defensive, you know, with the mounds, the grass mounds with all that green AOE on the ground, you can barely see it. You know, that's when you would, you know, if you want to hold on to it in this instance like that where you would use Elysian Decree to get you some life back, you can do that. But again, it's giving me I-Beam, which heals me on one pack pull, and then it's giving me Elysian Decree on the next pack pull to continue to have that survivability like I was describing before. So that's really the rotation, guys. The next thing I'm going to do is demonstrate it to you, and I'll demonstrate both of those pack pulls. So like I said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, emulation aura, use this, bounce back, Blade Dance, and that is the rotation. By that point, by the time you've utilized all of these things, you should have been looking at that pack being done, dead, over with, all she wrote. That should do it with all the cleave. If for any reason there are any left up, again, just throwing your Warglaive, utilizing, because you don't want to blow all your CDs on one pack and then you've got nothing for a rotation on the next pack, because usually your team's moving pretty good through these dungeons on regardless of what week it is, whether it's tyrannical, you know, stuff like that. So the next one is if these guys were still on CD, if I-Beam and Essence Break were on CD, this would be my next pack. This would be my next rotation. So I would come in again, aura, bounce back in, Blade Dance, Sigil, Elysian, throw a glaive, Blade Dance. And you can see just as much output on damage and giving me constant damage to output on each pack pull. And that's the beauty of this rotation. And again, being able to create those those soul shards, those lesser soul fragments to heal yourself, super important, super critical for you and your longevity in getting through these fights, especially being a melee class type, and also helping out your friendly healer in the group not have to put so much effort into you. And I don't know how many times they run out of mana, so it's nice to it's nice to be able to help them out when you can. So that's the rotations on an AOE pull. For single target, it's again pretty similar. On a single target, I'm going to come in, aura, Blade Dance back in. Now this is where I use the hunt to get that additional buff, so it really hits hard. Now from here, I'm holding on to Elysian Decree if I need it, because I'm going to go into Metamorphosis to recharge and get that buff on damage. Aura's back up. Hit it. Blade Dance back in. I'll even throw my glaives if you're trying to evade, especially when you're trying to evade AoE. things like that, so you're still putting out damage. And then if at this point I need it, at least in decrees on the ground, sigils on the ground, and you're just, whenever they're coming off CD, if it glows, it goes, you know what I mean? And I always, I know that the cooldown is longer on I-Beam, but I like keeping I-Beam and Essence Break on a similar rotation. So really, that's the look of single target when you're fighting your boss. The only thing I'm adding in is once I've completed my I-Beam and my Essence Break, I'm going into the hunt to get that damage without having to burn my Metamorphosis early, to go ahead and get that upfront damage. It's really nice. So that's going to do it with the rotations and the build. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, if you did, I really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, turn on the alerts, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the build and the rotation. Is it fun? Is it easy? Because I think it is, and I love it, and I feel like it can go toe-to-toe with just about any other build for Mythic plus AOE. Appreciate you guys coming to hang out with me. We'll see you next time. Take care.